was going to be geared more toward tourists, and it is, visitors. But what we found early on when we gathered with the convening was, by and large, everybody there was having the same issues. They either couldn't get their information out about their events, didn't know and had conflicts with other organizations on the same date, right? A big gala or a big fundraising event on the day of a big festival in town or whatever. And there was no coordinated spot to kind of talk and collaborate with each other between the government, the school district, the Stockton University, the theater, the art district, our Main Street program, our Chamber of Commerce, and all the other religious and community organizations in the community. So what we found was from that convening at Creative Hammonton in 2016, we kept our direction going for focusing on visitors to the community, but we added another layer, and that was for the locals, right? To really kind of engage the locals and the producing organizations, these event organizers. And so what we did was we started by, after that convening, where we learned that the event organizers had issues. We also found out, because we had moms and dads and just citizens of the community at that convening at Creative Hammonton, we also found out that they were struggling to find out what was going on in their own town. Small town, right? 2 local newspapers covered just Hammonton, and then others that cover the region and also Hammonton. So we're blessed to have a lot of media coverage, traditional and otherwise. But they still didn't know because there was no one spot. So a busy mom or dad or someone who's working, it's a young couple, they didn't have the time to clear through all that clutter, right? So we decided, knowing those 2 pieces and working with our tourism piece, we decided to put it all together. But first we gathered. We gathered a group, a handful of community organizers, and in particular event organizers in the community. We didn't take everybody. We didn't start off with everybody because we couldn't. We started off with a relatively small group as a spin-off of Creative Hammonton. And the key thing, one of the key big takeaway points is we spent about 6 months from our first meeting on just building trust. Now that's going to sound a little crazy because it's like, who has time to do that, right? But the reality is, had we not done that, we wouldn't have been able to expedite and move this thing along so quickly. As some of you in this room know, I like to move, a couple people that work with me know, I like to move things along relatively quickly. But I learned through the Dodge workshops and so on over the years, and other good experiences I've had, that without trust among these different organizations and people, you can't take on big, complicated, multifaceted projects and initiatives. So we literally just went through a lot of different exercises over the course of about 6 months, and as an outgrowth of that, we found a huge amount of common issues and also common ground, right? So for example, if I'm an arts group like the Eagle Theater, and we're adept at marketing, but we just don't have a big volunteer base, and our budget is very lean, right? Because we're a professional theater in southern New Jersey, so it's a challenge. But the Lions Club in town, for example, has a huge volunteer base, and they actually do a lot of regular fundraising and have a lot of donor support in the community. And so the idea of us collaborating for different events now going forward started to become an outgrowth of this. But more importantly, what we found was we're great at marketing, and that was a weak point for them. So that's what we brought to the table. They couldn't figure out why they couldn't get too many people to their events because they didn't really brand them. They just were kind of a little more of an old-fashioned kind of community group. So that's where we found we could intersect. But what we also found was that we all had the same issues. We had conflicts during the year where we were programming against each other and hurting each other. And we also found that we couldn't all get the word out exactly the way we wanted because there wasn't one central source. So we started small. We knew we couldn't take on all these issues, so we started small. We created a website and an online calendar called Hammonton.com. But in your areas, it could be whatever.